In this video, we take a detailed look at the path of the apostles, from their first steps to preaching to the whole world. You will learn what their mission really looked like and what legends have survived to this day. Knowing the routes of the apostles' travels is important for several reasons. It allows us to understand how Christianity spread in the first centuries, as well as which regions became the first Christian centers. In the Catholic and Orthodox churches, bishops are considered the successors of the apostles, so their travel routes have historical significance. The word apostle means messenger and indicates his purpose. Jesus chose his 12 apostles, as it is said in the Gospel of Luke 6:13, and when it was day, he called his disciples and chose 12 of them, whom he named apostles. Besides them, other people are sometimes called apostles, but in these cases we are talking about messengers who were not directly chosen by Jesus. Jesus instructs his 12 chosen ones to go first to the Jews and not to the Gentiles, as stated in Matthew 10 verses 5-6, and he commanded them, saying, "Do not go into the way of the Gentiles, and do not enter any city of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Therefore, in determining the path of the apostles, it is important to consider how the Jews were dispersed at that time. The Jewish diaspora made up a significant portion of the urban population of the eastern Mediterranean. By some estimates, there were about 8 million Jews in the world at the time of Herod, of whom only about a quarter were in Palestine. In the Roman Empire, Jews made up about 10% of the population. In Alexandria, they represented a majority in 2 out of 5 districts, and in Mesopotamia, a large diaspora remained from the time of the Babylonian captivity. Synagogues or houses of study were not just places of prayer, they were centers of expectation of the Messiah. The study of prophecies, regular discussions of the signs of his coming, prayers for the imminent appearance of the Savior were an important part of the religious life of the diaspora. Therefore, the apostles found a prepared audience here. Don't forget to subscribe. Write comments, put likes. After the ascension of Jesus, his apostles scattered to different parts of the world. Their missionary work is poorly described in the New Testament. The exceptions are Peter and Paul, whose stories serve as examples of how this could happen. At first, their missionary work did not extend to the pagans, for it is specified here that they lived there, preaching the word to no one except the Jews. Acts 11 verse 19. The travels of the apostles, unlike many biblical stories, were not accompanied by miracles and occurred quite naturally. They could follow the caravans and ships that moved along the trade routes that at that time covered the territory from Britain and Africa to Ceylon and China. These routes were protected by an armed force that protected them from enemies, robbers and other dangers. Soon the apostles discover that not only the Jews accept the gospel. This discovery occurs through a vision that God revealed to Peter. Philip baptizes the first non-Jew, an Ethiopian. And from Antioch comes the news of a mass baptism of the Gentiles. Acts 11 verse 23, the apostles are joined by their persecutor Saul, to whom Jesus appeared and converted him to the true path. In his letters, he emphasizes that he was called by Christ to the apostleship. With Paul, the turn to evangelism among the Gentiles begins, Acts 13 verse 46 and 28:28, for which he later received the nickname, the Apostle to the Gentiles. However, when visiting a new city, he usually went to the synagogue first, believing that he was preaching not a new religion, but the fulfillment of the promises given to Israel. Paul preached the gospel on the island of Cyprus, in the cities of Asia Minor, Greece, Italy and, possibly, in Spain. However, this does not mean that he was the first to bring the Christian faith there. From the Epistle to the Romans it follows that the church in the capital of the empire existed even before his arrival. Moreover, Christianity in Italy had spread so widely that when Paul arrived in the port city of Puteoli, the gospel was already being preached there. This was made possible by merchants, slaves and other travelers who, for various reasons, set out on a journey and carried the Christian message to new lands. Written sources about the apostles' travels appeared decades or even centuries after their lives. This was due to the fact that the churches of all major cities began to claim apostolic succession. The most important of the traditions about such travels was the tradition that the apostle Peter was in Rome. From his letters to Christians in Asia Minor, it can be assumed that he worked in those areas. The first direct evidence of Peter's stay in Rome belongs to Irenaeus of Lyons at the end of the 2nd century. In Alexandria, the church, which competed with Rome and Antioch, also came to the conclusion that it needed a founder from among the apostles, as a result of which the tradition appeared about the foundation of the Alexandrian church by St. Mark. Later, Venice allegedly stole the relics of the apostle. When Constantinople became the capital of the empire, its church began to claim that Apostle Philip had preached in Byzantium, the ancient city on the site of which Constantinople later arose. According to earlier information, he preached nearby, in Asia Minor. In the 3rd century, there was an apocryphal legend about the journey of Apostle Thomas to Parthia, to the border with India. Later sources directly connect Thomas with India. It is known that Jews lived in Kerala in the 1st century AD, and there was lively trade between India and the Middle East at that time. The small church that formed in India began to consider Thomas its founder, and in 1498 met the expedition of Vasco da Gama. Around the 3rd to 4th centuries, a legend appeared that Apostle Matthew preached in Ethiopia. In the ancient period, Ethiopia was not always precisely defined in a geographical sense. This may refer to the area south of Egypt, including modern Ethiopia, or to a larger region that included parts of Africa and the Middle East. Legends about the Apostle Andrew's visit to Scythia, the Balkans and Greece appeared in Christian tradition in the 4th century. In the earliest legend, Scythia was supposed to be a territory in Central Asia, including Sogdiana and the lands of the Sakas. Later, it was associated with the Black Sea coast, including Georgia and Crimea. In the 12th century, Nestor the chronicler reports a legend that the Apostle Andrew visited Kiev and Novgorod. The legend about the preaching of the Apostle Peter in Spain arose in the 5th century, but it was not as popular as the legend about the visit of James Zebedee, which appeared 3 centuries later. According to this legend, James, despite his efforts, did not achieve much success in preaching the gospel in Galicia and Zaragoza. On his way back, the Virgin Mary appeared to him standing on a column and spoke encouraging words. Upon his return to Jerusalem, James was beheaded by order of Herod, and his disciples brought his remains to Compostela, where, according to legend, he rests. This legend played an important role in the history of Spain, and Saint James, Santiago, became the national saint of the country. The road to Santiago de Compostela became one of the most important pilgrimage routes. It is certain that the Apostle John went to Asia Minor. Ephesus was the center of his activity. Due to the frequent mention of the name John, he is often confused with others. The question of whether he was on the island of Patmos and whether he wrote the book of Revelation remains controversial. In the 4th century, a legend appeared that the Apostle Bartholomew preached in India. However, given the geographical ideas of that time, India could have meant Arabia. There is a tradition in Armenia that Bartholomew, together with the Apostle Jude Thaddeus, brought the Christian faith to this country, becoming its patrons. Traditions also claim that Jude Thaddeus operated in Arabia and Persia. There are 7 different versions regarding the places where the Apostle Simon the Zealot carried out his missionary work and where he died. According to early Christian information, he reached the British Isles. Nothing reliable is known about the later works and death of the Apostle James the Younger, son of Alphaeus. Thus, the travel routes of Christ's messengers laid the foundation for the geography of early Christianity. Although not all the traditions about the apostles' travels have reliable historical confirmation, they reflect the real process of spreading the new faith. You can support the channel by making a donation. You will find links to my pages on Patreon, Privat24 and PayPal in the description under the video. Your support is very important.